It is 6:30. I will begin with a roll call. Bonnie Sears, Rebecca Hansen, Bill Bolton, Chris Buckley, Marianne Barnsley, and Brian Murphy from the town. We will begin with a review of the minutes from our meeting on November 7th. I only see one typo, and it's under number 3, the first bullet point. I believe Will has 2 L's.
That's what I was wondering when I read it. I thought, oh, maybe that's the way he spells his name.
It's the first time I've seen it with 1 L in the minutes.
Okay.
And we have seen his name frequently in the minutes.
Correct. He is a William, not a Wilford.
Yeah.
I only found one. And that was on page 4, under 5, down almost to the end where it says, the next meeting, the students will have a deliberative summary that, and it's got will, they will, so I've just crossed off that, the will, so that they will email prior to meeting.
Oh.
That sound right to you?
Sure.
Extra will.
And if we're doing spellings, misspellings, I have a few of those.
Hit me, might as well get it straight.
Those would go right by me.
Page 3, the flying money, the first time.
Isn't that what it's called?
Alex, he's amazing.
Either that or the next line, it's wrong where it says monkey. One of those is wrong. And then under administrative matters, the first bullet point, second line, Highland Street is being sold, not begin sold. I mean, it seems picky, but. And then on page 4, that block of paragraph that started on the previous page, 4th line from the bottom, when applicants come forward from this corridor,
No.
there shouldn't be no apostrophe, no possessive.
Got it.
I have just found another one. Page 5, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet point. In the middle of that, it says that we invite Lakes Region and someone from the state. I think that means the Lakes Region Planning Commission,
Yes.
unless we want just a random person from the Lakes Region to join us. Anything else, or some sort of motion?
I make a motion to approve these minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, next up, we have a public hearing for an application for a site plan review.
Madam Chair,
Ooh, did I miss something?
more minutes.
Oh, there's more minutes?
Remember when I
It was
walked?
the
Sidewalk.
sidewalk
Okay.
minutes.
Never mind. Hang on a second. We're still reviewing minutes. The minutes from our site walk on November 18th. I didn't see these, so I just need a,
Hey, I found a typo. Yay.
I guess is it's in the Conservation Commission members? Yeah.
Lisa Dona.
Should be an H on the end of that.
Right.
Yeah, what is her name?
Donor,
Oh,
but not like donor, but with an E.
okay. I wouldn't have noticed that. I didn't know who she was anyway.
These minutes are a lot faster to read.
Thank you, I wrote them.
Figured you had. Any other edits? A motion?
I would like to make a motion to accept these minutes.
How about a motion to approve them?
I would like to do that too.
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving these minutes?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Now, we have a public hearing for an application for a site plan review of a change of use proposal to establish ice cream, smoothie, and bubble tea shop in the existing commercial residential building at 74 Main Street, PID number 110-014-000. This property lies in the Village Commercial District. So, we have a person from that application? Okay, so I'll just run you through how this is gonna work. We'll have you go stand at the podium and, just so you can speak into the microphone so it'll get recorded. And then, give us an outline of your proposal, and then we will open it up to the board for questions. We'll allow for a public hearing, and then, continue asking questions as a board if necessary, so. Sure.
Madam Chair, I'd like to recuse myself from this conversation.
Thank you.
Do I need to?
I
You
think
don't need
just,
to leave.
Oh, good. Well, no, I meant.
Well,
you don't
better
have
to
do it.
step away from the,
Right, right.
just for, thank you, Mary.
I think the address is 47, not the 74.
oh,
Thank you.
so the address is at 47 Main Street.
47.
Okay, thank you. All right, so if you don't mind just saying your name and then, for the record, and then just let us know about what you're proposing to do.
My name is Tanat, and I would like to open the ice cream shop and like a dessert in the Asian style. The flavor is gonna be different from the not like a vanilla. It's like gonna be the Thai tea flavor, green tea, some like the coconut. Green, yeah, something like that. That kind of different. Yeah, just wanted to bring the Asian style to the town. And also the bubble tea is very popular in the Asian student. So that's why we want to bring it to the town and expand to the town. Also the smoothie, the acai smoothie, it's like a healthy food. So that should be all for the business. Yeah.
And just noting to the board that there are a number of waivers. Brian, do you just want to repeat what you said earlier about?
Yes, this is an existing commercial building on Main Street, the site of the Baker Valley Republicans' former headquarters. There is no exterior changes proposed to the building other than perhaps a freestanding sign on the existing pylon. One is allowed per property, so it would have to double up. Of course, anything behind the glass is viewed as display per court order, so they could certainly put signage there, but there's no effect outside of this unit. There's an existing salon across the hall from them, and residences on the second floor.
Okay, so first up is for us to assess the completeness of this application, or accept it. So any questions from the board regarding the completeness or motion?
I would like to make a motion to accept these plans.
I second that.
And just to note that 5 is a quorum, but with 4 of us, as long as we're unanimous, we're okay to vote, okay. All right, so all those in favor of accepting this application?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we've accepted the application as complete, which I didn't explain when I said the process, but if there's any other questions from the board, now is a good time to ask, or we'll open it up to a public hearing.
I had one. You have an area here for sandwich prep, so you're also going to be serving sandwiches?
The equipment is called sandwich prep. It's not, we're not
Oh,
gonna serve
it's-
sandwich,
so
but
it's
it's
just
just called, it's just
gonna
the
be-
name of the equipment.
It's not going to be sandwiches
No.
in there too? Also, okay, so do you have your own ice cream? You're making your own ice cream?
We have a Japanese vendor to deliver the ice cream flavor, but we gonna have our own flavor too. But mostly of the flavor we gonna have the vendor from the Japanese. Yeah.
Okay, so you
The vendor.
don't make your own ice cream there? Okay. Where do you get it from?
I'm sorry.
Where do you get your ice cream from?
It's from it's a company named JFC International, so it's a Japanese product.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions from the board? Okay, well, I'm going to open it up to the public hearing. Sorry, Bonnie, did you have another question?
No, I didn't,
Okay, okay.
thank you.
I didn't look at you when I
That's okay.
Okay, so it's 6:40, I'm going to open it up to a public hearing, and at this point, we'll allow any member of the public to come up and speak of any nature about this project. Don't get too comfortable, because I'm going to close the public hearing. It's still 6:40, and then bring it back to the board. Any other questions from the board that have developed in the past 35 seconds? Yes.
So is Is there a freestanding sign there now, just in the building that?
Yes, it's Angela, I believe, is the one that's out in front there. It's, if you stand in front of the building, it's located on the right side. There's a concrete walkway that goes to the front door. The Republican headquarters or the shop will be located to the left as you're standing facing the building.
All right, so maybe I missed, but so will it be a shared sign then?
It would have to be if they wanted to use a freestanding sign.
Okay, so it's per
limited to
building,
one per
not per
property.
business, okay.
Right, correct.
All right.
Well, so is it Margaret Duba that's like, has the sign, or is it,
It's the tenant on the other ground floor space. It's the salon. I don't know if it's hair cutting or coloring or, as you
Angela's
can
cut
tell, I'm
above.
not really a hair guy, so.
okay,
A beauty shop in
So
popular parlance.
that would be up for negotiation if they wanted to show the sign, something like
Yes,
that? With Margaret or something like that?
yeah, it would be through the owner. And like I said, anything that's on the inside of the glass is exempt from permit anyway, so
Oh,
that
interesting.
you could actually get a larger sign in there.
Or an entire picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which is what Angela has.
Exactly, yeah.
I know what her whole
think it's-
family looks like.
Isn't that Paul Mitchell himself that sits in the window? Anyway, any other questions from the board or motion?
I'd make a motion to approve this
Change of use.
change of use, yeah.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor of approving this site plan review for a change of use?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna.
Going to sleep.
Okay, next up, non-binding conceptual presentation for the Tenny Mountain Development concerning plans for a Contel and senior housing and other development plans.
Oh there. That'd be me. Okay, so my name is Jeff Lewis from North Point Engineering down in Concord. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I have done quite a bit of work up here, working with the planning board and with Brian over the past decade or so. I've kind of been behind the scenes on this project. I know the planning board has been presented with a couple of different conceptual ideas over the past couple of years with this project. I'm not sure if all you folks were present at those meetings, but I'm going to assume that everyone is familiar with Tenny Mountain and not get into all the details of everything up there. I am joined tonight by the owners here, Alessandro Insolia and Michael Bouchard, who Mike basically runs the mountain up there. And really, we wanted to just come and talk to you folks tonight. I'm just going to throw one of these boards up here to let you know kind of what's going on up there. It's been a slow process of getting things going. We're trying to get some momentum with this master plan and start making some progress up there. And we did have a couple questions to just run by you folks, basically looking for some input and trying to map out kind of where we're going over the next few months or 6 months or so, because we'd like to just make sure we're on the same page with you folks and with Brian, and we haven't had a chance to meet a couple times with Brian over the last month just to update him on what we're thinking. But basically, the mountain has been up and running for a couple of years now. They're heading into the third winter after a successful 2018-2019 season, and that's been basically the focus for the last couple of years, is getting the mountain up and running. So now we're looking at getting serious about what is the potential development out there, what are the areas we're going to focus on. And we've kind of taken a step back a little bit from previous versions of plans that you may have been presented with the last over the past couple of years to really just try to look at the areas that we have up here. So I've just put together 3 quick exhibits here. The first one just shows all the parcels that are there that are owned by Tenny Mountain Development Group right now, the parcels that they control, with parcel G being it's the mountain, basically. And for the most part, these are undeveloped parcels where we're trying to come up with a master plan for development on them. Some are more in the more immediate future. Others are more long range, but we want to make sure that we're looking holistically at the whole mountain. If you flip to the second page, try not to get too complicated here. This shows what we're thinking about doing. Sorry, I'm just going to step up here so I can point out these things. What we're thinking about doing is this lot right up here, which I've identified on the first page as parcel A, is what you may be familiar with we were calling it the Mountainside development. It was what was approved back in the 80s and partially built. Some of the infrastructure was built in there. And about a year ago, the group was here talking about 6 foundations that had been constructed out there. They were looking at the time to maybe build on those foundations. We're kind of steering in a different direction now. You may recall they were looking to design and permit a hotel up here somewhere. And what we're focusing on now is maybe carving off a lot right here, which we're calling A1 on this plan, which would become the hotel site. And we'd forego those 6 foundations that are in the ground now, basically give those up and create a 10 or 12 acre parcel here for a hotel. And then on A2, we could basically build out that mountainside, which wasn't at the time was a townhouse attached, and a townhouse style project. We'd come up with a product that basically fits with the infrastructure that's been in place there. So it may be duplexes or fourplexes or something like that. That would fit in here. So those are really one of the areas we're focusing on right now. The second area down here, which was parcel B, which really kind of goes, it's a U-shaped parcel that straddles Davis Road, which is the main entrance. We're talking about subdividing that also, basically on either side of the road, and creating a parcel B1 right here, which would be a senior living community. That's one of the things that was presented in the conceptual plan last year. So we're going to be working on a plan for that. B2 we've identified as a future, maybe commercial retail shopping plaza, something like that, kind of down the road. And then over here, these were 2 parcels D and parcel E on the first page. And if you're on the second page, we're thinking about carving those off into 3 parcels. One would be a corner parcel down here on the maybe turnpike that has basically a commercial or light industrial use. We're thinking we'd go down there, something compatible with the Route 3A corridor. And then we'd have these 2 larger parcels left over. Right now, the idea would be to do some type of multifamily or apartments on the middle parcel, and maybe some type of open space, residential, maybe combination, single family, duplex type of project on the upper parcel. So that's what we're trying to hone in on. What we really want to do is focus on a couple of what we're calling the target properties right now, which are really the A1 parcel, A1 and A2, the hotel and the townhouses, and then the senior living. So we're thinking in this coming year we'd be moving forward with these 2 subdivisions and then site plans for these lots right over here, and probably at the same time maybe just a subdivision over here to at least create the corner lot, so that could be something could potentially move forward on that. So that's basically where we're at right now. I'm gonna flip back to my notes here. A couple of things I just wanted to also mention. Part of what we've been doing over the past year has been gathering a lot of information on the mountain. We've had the opportunity to get some aerial mapping done out there, so we have some topography to use for the design. We've been on-site flagging and delineating wetlands, doing some on-the-ground survey and boundary reconnaissance stuff. So that's all stuff that's been taking place this past year. So we have a pretty good handle now to be moving forward on some specific developments on some of these parcels. We have an architect on board who's working with us to program specifically the hotel site and the senior living site. So we are hoping that in the next couple of months we'll have something that we can maybe come back to and start the process of a site plan review and a subdivision application. But we are still trying to kind of identify how these different uses will fit on these specific lots, knowing that it's got this background use there of the Tenny Mountain condominium, and it's got a lot of history, and so we do want to take it one step at a time. There are a few intricacies in the zoning ordinance that, I don't want to say they're obstacles to us, but we want to make sure that we have a clear understanding, I guess, of what the zoning requirements would be for some of these different uses. For example, the senior living, you folks have a continuing care community as a use. You also have a residential institution for elderly as a use. And what we're trying to do is come up with a program that we think will fit up here with this community. And we want to make sure that we're properly identifying what the use is in relation to the ordinance and mapping out if we're going to need special exceptions or variances for stuff like that. Another example is just density, when we're talking about these proposed uses up here, specifically the, both of those, the senior living and the hotel. Density requirements, if we were to do an open space development, we understand that the process is to have a pre-application meeting with the planning board. This is from the, our reading of the zoning ordinance to determine the density. So we would want to do that up front before we come in with some formal application, and just make sure that we think we're on the right steps here, just kind of one step at a time. I did have an opportunity to sit down with Brian yesterday to go through very quickly some questions that I come up relative to the zoning ordinance, and I do have a short list of them. I don't want to throw them out to you folks now looking for answers, because I don't think that would be fair, but what I was going to suggest was I could just maybe point out a couple of them and potentially have an opportunity for you folks to discuss it at a future meeting, or for us to come back and discuss it next month or something like that. Maybe when we have a little bit more information, I'd be happy to submit a letter to Brian for you folks to consider maybe your next workshop or business meeting, just so that we could be identifying issues that we have for zoning. For example, one of the things that's it could just kind of interesting tidbits in the ordinance, and I know there's a history to the ordinance, and everyone has to kind of work with what's there right now. But there is there's a section in the ordinance about uses and parking, and I'm not sure if how you've interpreted this before in the past, about 125% of the required parking spaces. And I don't have the ordinance with me right now, but it's a you know what I'm talking about.
There are two of it, and they're different because they're different. But one is, if you have 125% more than the required parking spaces, it could be a special exception or a variance use or permitted, depending. I don't think any were permitted.
It's like the first meeting I haven't brought my zoning.
I know, me too. I grabbed the wrong book.
You want
I think
mine?
having a letter would be.
Yeah, and again, I that's the last thing. I don't want to get into this, putting
Yeah, I
you
don't
on the
want to dig
spot.
into it right now.
Directly below that, there's a thing about 125% less.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like if you read it with an open mind and not knowing how the legal stuff works, you would think that if you satisfied the amendment 100%, somehow it wouldn't be allowed.
I'm gonna put Do we need anything else from the previous site plan review?
No, we don't.
Okay, you guys don't need to stick around if you don't want, yeah. You're welcome to, but don't feel like you have to. It looks like somebody's tired.
Yeah, that's just one of them. Another one is, we do have a situation here where we have all private roads up here, and we'd be looking to subdivide. These are previously approved subdivisions, but I want to make sure we're not going down a path where there's going to be an issue subdividing on a private road. I think there's a little bit of homework I want to do on that too, but it does come back to what's the board and what's the precedence that's been set out here before. So I'd like to, have that conversation. And then there's just some, identifying the open space path that we go down and the proper, procedure for doing that, I think would be good if we can all look at the zoning ordinance and then identify what that path is, because it'll be critical for this project to establish density, allowable density, before we really move forward with, a full plan. And then there is one of the oddities in the ordinance is with the density, the way that the ordinance defines single-family and duplex versus the 3 to 6 units. If you were to do a duplex development, your density would be based on, you need 1 acre for every dwelling unit, so a duplex would need a minimum of 2 acres. But if you were to do a 3 or 4 unit apartment, your density requirement is, again, for like a 4-unit apartment, it'd be 1 acre for 4 units. So you get penalized for doing a duplex. So, if we have to go to the zoning board, we have to go to the zoning board, but that's what I just want to make sure, you folks are the first, front of the interpretation of the zoning ordinance. So I don't want to start down a path and then find out we have to go to the zoning or the ZBA for a variance. I'd like to know that up front. And so it is somewhat just interpreting the ordinance. And I can absolutely put that in a letter, get that to Brian, all those things. But I think, the more we get into it, the more we define the specific things we want to do on here, the more, some of the questions and answers have to come from what we want to do, but I don't want to go down one path when we should have gone down another path, because right now we're at the beginning, and we just like to move on a track that's going to head in the right direction and not have to back up. So if that makes sense. So that's really where we're at. We just wanted to show you this, show you where we're at. If there's any feedback you have from us right now, we take it. But they are interested in moving forward with this, so we are trying to, get our arms wrapped around it now, and they're heading into another hopefully successful ski season here, and come out from that kind of swinging with something that they might be able to move forward with here on one of these, two options here.
I think this is great to not only have you come here prior to us making decisions and or even a preliminary discussion. I also like seeing the overview and kind of understanding what the plan is, because I think we can do our job better if we can see the larger picture here too. I think getting the subdivision issue dealt with, and I think, Brian, you can probably handle that as far as frontage and private roads and things like that, because it's not a major subdivision.
Right.
But it's the result of a major subdivision probably at some point in history, so.
Correct, there's got to be some kind of
Right.
case law
But
already about that.
But I think Brian can probably provide the guidance as far as what the requirements would be for because there's some funky lot merging, subdividing, and some funny stuff happening there that, obviously the minor, they're all minor subdivisions, but those would come to us at some point, but I think Brian can help straighten out road frontage. And then, thank you for pointing out some oddities in our zoning ordinance, because we come across those frequently. But a list of those things, and then we can review those one by one, and it'd be helpful for me just to sit down with a piece of paper and review the zoning ordinance with those questions. We are in the midst of looking at our zoning ordinance, so hearing feedback from applicants, I think, is actually some of the most important feedback we hear too. So, in looking at these density requirements, open space, those are all part of what we're looking at as we look at, what the state of our zoning ordinance is. So, I say that not to be like, hey, we're going to change this on
Yes.
you, but we're trying to make these kind of things work within what the town wants to see.
Yeah, and I think,
These kind of things work within what the town wants to see. 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 What the town wants to see Yeah.
Quick question, okay? Regarding the senior living facility, is that a 55 plus, or is that like skilled nursing, or what?
Well, that question has yet to be determined, really. I mean, that's kind of where we're trying to hone in on that, but these questions hopefully will lead us, come into play when we're trying to make those decisions. So we want to do something that's going to be, permitted out here, and not, be too far outside the confines of the zoning ordinance. So we're trying to get our arms wrapped around that. But yeah, I mean, the intent of senior is retirement over 55, probably with a long-term care component. But that's what we're working with some other folks right now, trying to program that. And we should be advising them as to, how we're working within the ordinance to get what they want. So I think that, if we could come back, I'd like to come back even next month or something, and show you where we're at, and I may be able to answer that in a little more detail. I can get my list of questions to Brian right away, and give you folks a month to have them, and then maybe come back, and if for nothing else, just to talk about those. And I mean, I would prefer to do that, just to kind of have a couple conceptual meetings here, and then when we think we're all set, then we'll go away for a few months and come back with a formal application, if that makes sense. And I know, Brian and I talking, and I agree, whatever we can work out with Brian, great. I just want, both of us, I think, would like you folks to be plugged in, because it is a complex project, and make sure we're on the right path.
And I would certainly keep you folks in the
Yeah,
loop on
I think
everything.
the or the subdivision stuff, I think that's a lot of like very much site-specific, what's been
Correct.
determined before. I know we'll get a summary of that when we see the application. But anything as far as like zoning ordinance things, interpretations, it's just helpful for us to hear that stuff so we know what's going on with the zoning ordinance.
Well, when I get his list of questions, I'll pull the excerpts from the zoning ordinance to show you just what we're up against.
Okay.
And you can see that, I mean, if senior living, like we all think of it as independent, you just move into a smaller place. It's totally permitted everywhere we go, but then we have, like Jeff had mentioned, these other types, which are a lot more stringent and may or may not be acceptable in that zone.
Yeah.
So it's better to identify rather than have a full spectrum senior housing
Right.
and have to lop a component off at
Right.
the end of the day.
Okay. Other questions from the board?
So just curious, you said in the beginning this was sort of a 6-month plan. So is this just the hotel or the hotel?
Yeah, I think when I say that, I'm thinking of getting something permitted in 2020, and we can't get everything permitted, so we need to focus on a couple of the primary areas, and the focus right now is going to be on that hotel, it'll be on those parcels right there. So the hotel, the townhouses, and the senior living is going to be the focus. Now, we may come in with one of those before the other. We may come in with a couple subdivision plans or site plans at the same time. I don't know, but they're expecting us to be working on that over the winter and getting something going. So it's something real. It's the best I can explain it.
I'm raising my hand, and so I guess I'm acknowledging myself. What are the wavy lines on this?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even pull up that sheet.
Yeah.
That was just to give you some idea of, one of the things we're looking at is just the areas that are suitable. So that's the kind of outline, where we're thinking, like, this is the easiest one to see. And each is the one we took this much time on, but when you look at when you see the topography, you see our steep slopes in there, you'll see that this is pretty much the mountain up here, and there's a strip in here that could be, buildable, I'd say. So we probably have an access road come in and have a development here. And that's what these are just indicating, the likely area of development on each of these lots. So these are kind of what we're trying to use as our work in progress maps. I mean, if we came back next month and we have this refined a little bit more with a little bit more information on access and on these specific uses we're talking about.
Just a wise question, but, so you're making snow yet, and can we start skiing, or what?
It's snowing up there, right? Yeah, they're making snow.
So you're making
It's
snow?
cold enough.
Seriously?
Maybe not today, but.
Okay. Great.
Other questions or things that might be helpful for these folks as they're developing more plans and an application?
Great, so I'll get that list to Brian, and then we'll see if we want to come back next month. I'll just ask Brian to have us put on the agenda and go from there.
And I'm okay if it's late for the public hearing night to add another preliminary
Okay,
discussion.
great.
If that works for the rest of the
Yeah,
board.
yeah,
But if we
don't-
load up with applicants, then let's maybe revisit that, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great, thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You. Now on to administrative matters. We've gotten some mail.
Yes, for Harbor Homes, all their applications for the rebuild of that retention pond in the back have come in. We have the Dam Bureau approval and the AOT. And also, I got the AOT for the Ambrose pit as well. And if, they're here if you want to read them. It's basically just an alteration of terrain. There's nothing outstanding in either one, just, mitigation at the end of the life of it and that kind of
But an
thing.
interesting read nonetheless.
It's riveting. Yeah. Okay, I guess this is my show here. I got a call from the Historical Society, they didn't like the location of the Baker Monument, which is adjacent to the Armory. Raise your hand if you've ever stopped and read it.
I guess I have on a bicycle.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's there. It's in a very unsafe location, and it's almost invisible. So they wanted to put it in place even where, at least people could read it.
Is it just a,
It's a plaque on a stone,
all right,
like the Holmes Academy plaque across the street here at the entrance to the university. Typical of these monuments, So, they didn't know how to begin to even, who owns it, and so I called DOT, and they said, ain't ours, but we'd like to know when you move it. I said, okay, that's fine. Turns out it's the DAR. And the DAR is perfectly happy to do this. So I met with them the other day in the rain, and we looked at where we could possibly locate it.
the local chapter or something?
There
They
is.
must be, yeah.
Romney.
Somewhere, like even if there was a divided island for that parking lot, would be a perfect place for it. Just somewhere back from the road a little bit where you could actually stop your car without getting hit. So as we're standing there and we're discussing these things, I looked across the field, and there's the Gardens for Many. And we all know what's at the back of the Gardens for Many, which is the trailhead for the Heritage Trail. The light bulb went on. I said, would you be interested in locating it over there at the trailhead? And they loved it. All they needed was Alex Ray's permission, which I obtained within a half hour after the meeting. So, since we've been talking trails so much, I thought it was important to bring this forward because that will be also an added draw to the trail. This afternoon, I found out that Water and Sewer is going to be relocating their forced main along the Baker, along the road that they've already improved, which means that a lot of the trail area will become a wide, flattened road, which actually opens up opportunities for everybody to get on there. It's restricted for vehicles. There are gates there. So, this goes in mind with what we had envisioned for that, where it would be a walking or horseback riding or perhaps, bicycling along, for the Fat Tire folks. It'll be a little bit easier for them, but it will also open up the possibility to make it more handicap accessible with the roadway there. So I thought that was worth bringing to your attention. I mean, it's not the cow path through the woods anymore. It'll be very improved, but also it'll be a lot safer, and it does run along the river there, so it'll be a nice walk.
Way to get things done.
Sometimes you just step in it, Madam Chair.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Updates from other boards?
I think because you were on that site walk, you know, kind of
Yeah.
what's, I
Right.
mean, well, I guess the one thing is we did make a motion and approve it to accept Mike McGinley's offer for those 2 parcels of land as he presented it, you know, with the trail corridor. So, you know, I let Mike know that we did that, so now we need something in writing, I'm assuming, and,
So the Conservation Commission
Conserv-
wants to accept, to be the holder of the easement?
Holder of the easement, yeah. So, so I guess the town has to accept the property.
And
Right.
that's what makes the most sense instead of because it sounded like he was gonna give, who's gonna own the fee of the property, I guess is my question.
Yeah, that was the question.
Yep.
So it, you know, it would be the town or the commission, so obviously it would be the town. And then it becomes a matter of stewardship. And the question before the Conservation Commission was, do you want to be the official stewards of these parcels? Or would you put it to the land trust like the one out towards Romney, the Quincy Block?
Yep. So the town can't be the easement holder and the property owner?
I think they can, but they have to get money to keep it going, and that's why they like to put it in third party.
Usually you won't see both. There's
Right.
very few conditions where you'd see the property owner and the easement holder because it ends up being a bit of a conflict of interest.
So what's Walter Newton, the town owns that, but is there no easement on that because it's just outright owned?
I'm not sure.
Because we monitor that, and that's owned by the town.
Yeah,
It
so
is-
I'm pretty sure it would be the same way with the 2 parcels
Yeah.
in the Baker Valley.
So part of the problem is if you're both the easement holder and the property owner, oftentimes it's the property owner that has encroachments on the easement, and so then you're monitoring yourself to adhere to the easement, and that's a conflict of interest, so, yeah.
Well then.
So I don't know, just something to think about.
Yeah, yeah, and, you know, and like I said, this all has to be worked out. I mean, we've agreed
Yep.
to accept the offer he gave us,
It's a
but
land
we have to
transfer,
work
so
out-
it can't
yeah.
be done on a handshake, you know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
all kinds of
So-
paperwork.
So,
involved.
yeah, and so he made it very clear that he's on a deadline, so I kind of wanted to move things forward for him, so, you know, I kind of pushed it at the meeting the other night, so I think the next move is his.
Yeah,
Kind of wanted to, you know, beat the 12/15 deadline for the rules changes, DES.
oh, for the wetlands,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there was a conference call about that last night.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to postpone it, even though we've got some changes to be made too for Perlac. But
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally respect the urgency of that, but ultimately we need to make the best, you know,
yeah.
I'm talking more about what happens on our end.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
And I don't think the wetlands permit, I mean, they can propose the wetlands permit to DES prior to the rules change without us approving, because the wetlands permit can be conditional, right, upon the,
I would assume so.
yeah.
Just get it in, yep.
Yeah, I don't know how much, you're kind of third party to this, as far as the permitting part of it.
Yeah, so it's the easement that needs to be in place for them to get their
Correct.
debt through, okay, yeah. Yeah, so we have nothing to do with it, that part,
But you would be informed with anything
Yeah.
that comes out of that, sure.
because we need them to have the wetlands permit, so DES has to sign off on that, and the easement is part of it, so, yeah. Okay.
That's what I got.
Anything worth mentioning? Or what is worth mentioning? Everything you do is valuable, Bill. But what's going on with the select board?
Select board, what is going on with the select board? Gosh darn it. What's been going on with the select board? How long ago was it? Oh, jeez.
There's so many things, but I don't think there's anything that's worthy of public comment at this point.
Usually it's vice versa.
There are a
You
few
get a
things
lot
going on
done, and then
behind
I
the
report on that at select board. So,
I just like having an opportunity for that news to be shared. so.
appreciate it, thanks.
Okay. Have we already passed the deadline for people to submit zoning ordinance petitions?
Probably not.
I don't think so, but we're getting close. I did print that out.
Okay.
Did I submit it to you folks?
You did.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I don't think we have anything coming up for us
No,
this year.
there was one note that I have, which is stuck in my ordinance down there, about striking one of the amendments
Okay.
or a section in there, because what we did last year, or it might have been having to do with the not home occupation, but accessory dwelling units, it just made that section obsolete.
Okay.
But we couldn't just ignore it. It has to be officially withdrawn. So it's a housekeeping matter. But
Okay.
that was the only note that I
Okay.
had this year, really.
Okay. Anything else from the board I think now's the time for things of immediate nature that we need to fix because of new law or things that are really not working, but other than that, we're in the midst of a larger overhaul, so there's no need to tweak tiny things because,
Right, it may be not necessary next year.
but I also just wanted to say that on the record too, that there's a deadline for the public to sign, to present us with zoning ordinance changes.
Correct.
With a petition.
The 25 signature,
Yeah. Do you know what the date is, or I can just say there's a deadline and.
there is a deadline.
Yeah.
And I'll get that information to you and probably put it up, as a quick thing on the
Okay.
website, since we had discussed it here,
Yeah.
just to get the word out behind us.
Since we're sitting here, I finally thought of something that we actually didn't know. Well, then. So, the town administrator did announce his retirement, and he's going to accept the job as emergency management director, which is a part-time job, but he'll be out of that office. And, yeah, Kathy Lowe is the new town administrator.
All right.
Yeah, and that'll occur, well, Paul is leaving December 20th.
Okay. All right. I have one more thing that I just wanted to think about. Since we're sort of working with Steve's class and haven't been really digging into the zoning ordinance / master plan the past couple sessions, just wanted to think about things that the board might need to help us do our job better, and if there's things that if there's like a topic area that folks need help on, that we could just maybe pull some resources and spend half an hour at a meeting going through, so we can think of it as like, board development type of thing. So, is there anything that folks need help learning more? I mean, right now, I think we need help with recruitment, but,
Definitely.
yeah.
I can't think of anything right now.
All right, well, I'll continue to ask that, and we'll just think about, and maybe I'll just find something, and if anyone else finds something that they think would be interesting, then I think just spending a little bit of time each meeting, honing our skills and learning a little more, I think would be really helpful, so. Anything else?
Public comment.
I'm good,
Oh,
yep.
I'm sorry.
No, jeez.
Didn't want to step on it.
Since there's nothing else from the board, is there anything, anyone from would the public like to say anything? Okay,
The public is good.
yep, all right. It's good to hear. You're up.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.